Hi everyone, Legends Lore, we're back again, and this is season 2, episode 9. And I'm Anna B. Meyer, and with me, as usual, is.
Mike Bridges. Who do we have here today, Anna?
Oh, yes, we have Blake Ryan, and this is so cool because there's someone that's started tweeting cool things and started writing awesome blog posts and a whole bunch of Greyhawk related stuff. So I realized we just need to have Blake on the show. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Uh, Thank you. G'day all. So slight delay because
Where?
I'm here in Australia.
Yeah, we have like a second delay, so it might be some
Okay.
stuff. And now we have a lot of people coming in chat too. That's awesome. Welcome Nibiolo and JB Garrison. Awesome. Thank you for coming. So Blake, please tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to.
Yeah, I write for Tribality.com. There's lots of D&D and Pathfinder sort of articles on there. At the minute, I'm doing a Greyhawk series, but should probably start in the beginning. Back in July '89, I started playing Temple of Elemental Evil as with second edition D&D. That's when I first started, and we had like Cavalier and Barbarian from Unearthed Arcana because they
Nice.
were awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all sort of gone on from there. I played for about 2 years, and I thought, no, I want to GM. I got my own ideas to do, and yeah, been gaming ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. So was it Greyhawk? Did that become a part of your gaming early on, or is that
Yeah,
more
right at the
recent?
beginning was Temple of Elemental Evil.
Yep.
I liked sort of the world, just a fantasy vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, my first GM didn't really describe things well because, like, I thought a bugbear was a big furry bee that had like a bear's head on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we had to sort of go and look up stuff and think, oh, that's not what we were fighting at all. This is weird.
But they
But
should. That sounds
Yeah.
cool.
yeah, it's a very different field of fighting a big furry bug to a 7 foot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, it was good. So I mean, I've tried other games and other settings, but I've always sort of come back to Greyhawk. It's always been one of the consistent places
Yeah.
Yeah,
as a
I
player
feel
and
that.
as a GM.
And now you turned into writing cool stuff about it. You had a series on cities and towns and stuff of Greyhawk and a whole bunch of other stuff too. It's that's amazing.
Yeah, well, it's not hugely different from being a GM and sort of prepping out your notes, and you just
Yeah.
sort of polish it up, make it look a bit nicer, and then try and make sure it's not just in your shorthand. It's that any other gamer
Yeah.
could pick it up and go, oh, I can
Yeah.
work with this.
Yeah.
And they're not super detailed because I'm not giving a painting. It's more like what Gary did it's here's a palette.
Yeah.
You can draw the
Yeah.
conclusions you want. It's up to you to make it your world, your game, but
Yeah.
it's enough to work with as a framework.
Yeah, yeah, I really love that. It's like it's the 50% of the information you need in order to run the city, and then or 75 or something like that. Then it's the what you need in order to put in your NPCs and stuff in a city that is already there or a settlement that is already fleshed out, but not down to every minute detail, which is very much the standard Greyhawk approach, so to speak. It's halfway done or two-thirds done.
Yeah, I liked when I first read your first one. I think that was Marner, was it?
Mana and Ratic, yep.
Yep.
Uh, I thought to myself, well, this is paced perfectly. It's just the right size. Lots of times when I'm writing posts, I always keep in mind that at some point this is going to get too long and you're not going to read it. That
Yeah,
old
yeah.
TLDR
Because
thing.
a lot of people are looking at stuff on their phone these days, so you don't want
Yeah.
more than like 3 pages because people they're not going to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I consciously try to rear back on that sometimes. And like I said, yours are just the right size portion for a
That's-
continuing series too.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to put more detail in, but then I'm like, well, then I'm kind of stuck to a time, whether it's post-wars, pre-wars, way after the wars, whatever. And
That's
it's like,
true.
well, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that because you immediately alienate half your audience. It's not useful to them. So it's like,
Yeah.
That's a problem I've dug myself into. I need to do separate version of the map. Yeah, but So what kind of let's see, how many cities have you done now?
I think I did 3 cities and then like an Underdark one underneath that region, so you can link them in if you want to.
Yeah.
But before that, I did like a overview to Greyhawk, so that people who've been away for a while or new to Greyhawk can sort of, here's a bit about the setting and here's links to a bunch more information.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I read a lot of the Cannon Fire articles, but I don't presume that everyone else who's been in Greyhawk has, because there's some serious detail in there. Like,
Yeah.
there was at one point there's like 20 pages of timeline events, and it's like, wow, and that's where
Cannon Fire's definitely a Dungeon Master's site for Dungeon Masters.
Oh yeah, it's and now there's like almost like 40 years of content in various over the editions and eons of it. So now there's a kind of an opening for a Greyhawk librarian or someone to bring the there's a lot you can research things and you can put it together and you can kind of 20 years ago, that wasn't that much of a market because then the diehards knew everything and had the books. Now there's a new generation that needs to be introduced. So I think this is really, this is perfect timing.
Yeah.
So please go on.
I was just going to say, speaking of maps, Anna was on Tabletop Babble recently.
Yep.
Talking about her maps and talking with James in Chicasso.
Yep. Actually, we recorded that like, what was it, 2-3 months ago? So nice. I've forgotten most of what I said, but it was, we had a really cool and I thought we was going to have a panel discussion, and they asked a couple of questions and then they didn't say anything, so I just went on, but it was really good because it was one of these times when I was working the hardest on my 2019 edition and a lot of the overviews and considerations. So it was great, and they are awesome, and James is such an awesome
he's
host.
Always happy, always enthusiastic guy.
Yep it's really and so that kind of it's really that was awesome. So I've done a couple of talks with him. I met him at Gen Con last year, and so that was an awesome opportunity that I wanted to I could spread it on more to the RPG side of mapping rather than the technical side of mapping. And I love the fact that you can go from how is this supposed to be used in a campaign to how do you make mountains and height maps and stuff. So I kind of love the technical side in one bit, but also the end user side. So that's kind of try to be my strength as a cartographer, because I'm not the best at maps and I'm certainly not the best at 3D modeling, but I'm kind of find the sweet spot, so to speak. So
I would disagree. You're pretty awesome at maps compared to most of us lowly mortals, you know what I mean?
Well, I spend my entire time at it, so that's why my speciality is doing it. But on the other hand, there are people who studied cartography at their master's degree in cartography and stuff, and they are above my. On the other hand, I take a lot of their knowledge and skills and try to apply it for an RPG thing, so to speak. So in that sense, I guess I'm a cartographer professionalizing in RPG, because just like GPS maps on your car are supposed to be perfectly suited to get you from where you are to your endpoint, I want to have the same type of dedication to the tools for a dungeon master and for the players, so to speak. So that's the end goal, to find what works for campaigns, to get a campaign setting visualized and have the tools. So but
I'm pretty sure Anna's GPS maps of Greyhawk still won't be right in all.
That's exactly that's the thing. We need to look into that. Yep. And all is there chaotic manners in all, even afflicting the landscape gets kind of.
That's an idea.
Yeah, because that's how I see. If you have like demon, like I use for instance, and so on, when you have too much abyssal influence, that kind of tweaks the landscape. That's my impression of it. You can have planner kind of when you have enough hellish and or abyssal influences that kind of tweaks the whole landscape.
That's a good segue. So I know Blake's been messing around with Rift Canyon.
Yes, I was going to ask. That was such a cool.
Share that one. That's in Hexographer, so it's all hex based. So it looks like the old school Greyhawk maps. It's not as polished as Anna's, but yeah, it's just something to work with. I mean, I've probably put 30 hours into them at this point, but I'll
Yeah.
probably do another 15 just tidying bits up and comparing it to everyone else's map to try and get it as close to what everyone else has done as possible.
Yeah, and you did something really cool. You did an analysis of how much the sun shines at the bottom of the canyon. That was
Yeah,
really,
that
that
was
was super cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
UFO.
was. There are some limestone caves near where I'm in Adelaide, and the first thing you notice, like 3 steps in, is the temperature drops way down. It's way cooler down there, and it's like, oh, and it's just because it's not constantly getting that warmth from the sun.
Yep.
Huh.
It's sort of still quiet and cool. So I'm like, well, hang on, if you're in a sort of area like this where it's not getting the morning sun until like 10 o'clock, and then as you get further down that bit, you're going to get less and less. So
Yep.
affect vegetation, the creatures that feed on that vegetation, and so on. So
Yeah. And then you also get that the cold air stays there. It kind of don't
yeah,
rise up. So yeah.
Like the top, one of the things I was thinking about is the top sort of ledges be super windy because of how high and low pressure systems work. But
Yeah.
once you get sort of middle down, still there's going to be no air movement at all.
Yep.
The other thing that came to mind is one of the Age of Worms series, there's like a dragon and or some giants running around. So in order to have that without completely destabilizing the region, there needs to be deep. It
Yeah.
needs to be like a couple of miles deep.
Oh
Otherwise,
yeah.
as soon as you put them in there, it's like bang, that
Yeah.
changes
Yeah, I
how the wall
envision it
went,
to,
how everything.
yeah, I envision it to go many miles because it's like it's so wide. It's like 20 miles or more wide. So even if it's a mile deep, that will be like the valley next to where I live, basically. And meaning it's not then it will look like a plain down there with some mountains in either end.
Oh.
And so that's why I envision it in place it's more than 100 miles deep, probably even 200 miles deep. So
Wow.
that's my envision of it. That it's like it's going like this, but really deep, and then you can have some plane of shadow and other stuff. Meaning it goes on forever down there. So you might get, if you fall in the wrong spot, you fall forever down into whatever pit that might.
Yeah, when I
lead
was
to.
making it, I was thinking, maybe I could have some portals to Shadow Plane.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
there's a bit under the Valley of the Mage guy where he stopped in the Bandit Kingdoms, and I thought, oh, maybe he did some tombs there, maybe he opened some portals
Yep.
before he left. And then I thought, well, hang on, how deep do you want to go? Because maybe Thoros Dunn's chained up down there.
Yeah.
You know, you can
have
take it where
all
you want to
sorts
go.
of- Yep, you can take all sorts of stuff, and I'm going to just switch view real quick here, so we can because we might have people in the audience here who not really sure what we're talking about here. So here is a quick view of the Rift Canyon, and while I'm going to change it to, hang on a second, that's not the super detailed. Let's go here and do the this one is better. This is the.
I was thinking, like, you have Google Earth, and we could have Google Earth.
Yes,
Oh,
that's the ultimate goal for me
plot
would to have something like that.
For by wagon or by foot or whatever on Google Earth, and you know, have it like an app.
Yep. So yeah, so the Rift Canyon, that's one of the things that is really highest on my list to map, and because it will be, I could start thinking about things like Underdark and stuff like that. It will tie into these things, and it will be some to cut in. So I'm probably 2-3 years away from feeling like I have the tools are starting to come in place. So next year I will have all the tools, and then I need another year to plan it and figure out how to do it, set the standards and stuff, and then dig into it. So probably in 2-3 years time I'll start digging into to literally digging into the Rift Canyon. So yeah, or virtually digging into it at least. Yeah.
Baby's cracking me up in chat.
Oh. Yeah. Yep, this is cool. Yeah, so Rift Canyon is one of these, as a cartographer, a big geographical irresistible features.
Yeah,
so to speak.
yeah.
Yep.
Because I think it was Casey that mentioned it a couple of weeks back, and I went and looked at the maps, and I thought that thing's bloody massive. It's huge.
Yep.
And so I thought, well, you know, let's do something with this. There's got to be some adventure locations in there.
Oh yeah, there's plenty. We have we have the Dragotha's lair that is somewhere that I put in the left there, and then we have the Dragon Rift. I'm not really sure why it's called the Dragon Rift, but it's kind of funny. There is interesting, and there's some rumors of shadow dragons living there. We have Morgan Staller, and yeah, so there is a whole bunch of dragon connections with the Rift Canyon and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I envision that there are bits and areas of it that are not that deep at all, and then there are deep pits that are really really deep, so you can have everything from a few thousand feet to 100 or more miles down, because it's such a large area. So I'm going to turn on the hexes here so I can make a quick kind of
so how do you think about, or what do you think about those islands?
Well, I was sort of wondering if they stick up all the way from the bottom, or they're just like from one of the other upper ledges and just sort of come out like that. So from the surface, it looks like it's an island, but it's only sort of 1,000 feet down, and then it's a pinnacle that comes out, but it's actually a lot deeper underneath it.
Yeah.
Because if you've got it, 2 miles deep, even having a sort of pinnacle sticking up for 500 feet, you'll see it from the surface, but there's still a lot below.
Yeah, I envision. I think there's a couple of them have canon routes, so to speak. There have been maps before that had a few of them, and some of them were Anundsen. I forgot his first name. That did a lot of Eric Anundsen. Thank you. Yeah, he did a map. So I used some of his. He added some details to it. So I used his as a base of mine, and then added some more as well. And I envisioned that a few of them are just like you said. They might sit on the ledge going down, and all of a sudden there's a peak sticking up, and they might only be a few thousand feet down, and then it goes up like this. And some of them might be from infinity down, so to speak. So there might be some cool ones that might actually be from another plane sticking in or up or whatever. So they might be from an interesting material that comes from the abyssal or plane of shadow or whatever. So you can have all sorts of cool game effects. Imagine that you have these kind of creatures that come from under plane that climbs up to the bottom or the top of it and stares out at the Flanny's landscape, but they come from another.
You can have like Zorn and I think the Galadur.
Yeah.
The sort of rockmen dudes and running around, because that's a perfect spot for them.
Yep.
But when I was doing my hex map and I had sort of the base, the bottom section, I'm like, well, it's a bit boring if it's all flat. And I thought, well, hang on, if this is 2 miles down, I can put two, hills that are 200 to 300 feet tall, and it's still not going to be seen from the surface because it's nothing compared to 1,000 feet of air above it. So I just put fungus sort of forest instead of regular forest because they're not going to get the daylight.
Yeah, and it's easily like 30-40 miles across. So if you take but on the other hand, I don't know how literally you can take Darlene's map. I took it kind of literally, but you can also be seen as a symbol of what it looks like, and then it's not that big in reality. If you read the descriptions, if you read the description, it's not anywhere near this size when you read the description. But I thought the description was kind of boring because that describes one of the valleys up in the mountains here, basically. So I wanted it to be bigger than the Grand Canyon. So I took Eric took Darlene literally, and I took them both literally and added to it. So it's something that is like almost 200 miles, but 50 by 200 miles. So I realized,
Is it Nebulos 777 was saying there's be soot because of White Plume Mountain nearby?
That's a good idea. Well,
you don't just have a volcano though. There'd be lava tunnels maybe at one of the southwest ends of it.
And you can have like openings to the plane of fire and stuff like that down there with fiery pits and all sorts of stuff. And I moved the map over a little bit so we can show that this is the White Plume Mountain it's kind of.
It would be quite ideal if White Plume Mountain was right at the western edge of Rift Canyon, like it was a big crack that's forming out of it.
That's a good idea, and something, because I've looked at this area here on the map that is between the White Plume Mountain and the Worm Crawl fissures. Yeah, that area it needs some details. So that is something I'm going to dig into.
If they could be hooked up somehow, that would
Yeah.
really make these
Yeah, and
interesting.
then we can have some old lava tubes and all like cool stuff underground, and it opens up a whole range of possibilities. Cool. I'm going to put that in my map notes
I
for
think there was
future.
a god called Pyremus, a sort of anger
Yeah.
and fire and stuff. He could have a
Yeah.
cult there trying to set it off and
Yeah.
praise their god by volcanoing the planet.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. That it's so cool. I think every episode we've done on Legends and Lore, I've found out something that I need to put on the map or change or add. It's usually something add. So this is perfect. I'm going to put a map notes here and put in yep. Um, you two can go on talking. I'm just going to put the notes here so I don't forget.
So beyond the Rift Canyon hex map you're working on, what can we expect coming up? Any previews?
Yep, and the tribality articles, I've got a bunch of towns and cities, but I don't just want to do that. I was going to break it up a bit. I was going to do a series of shrines, like just pick 9 gods and say, here's a shrine over here. You can put it in this spot or this spot. Here's what happens if you pay reverence. Here's what happens if you try and destroy it. And just sort of who's there, who's trying to trash it or whatever. And yeah, just some plot ideas. So sort of a series of that. I've got some ideas for a bunch of wizards, sort of a cult of Igwiv, or however you want to pronounce her name.
Yep.
Good enough.
Yep.
And I'll throw that in there as well, and then some more cities, and just sort of space them all out together. Yeah, with the shrines, I've also linked in. If you've got those double-sided A4 adventure cards from Grail City box set and from the Ashes box set, choose some of those adventures and you say you can link this into this shrine in this way, and
yeah, we had a good comment. We had a good comment from JB Garrison. Even if covered with soot from a distance, it would still be grayed, subdued, and not so black. Yes, I agree. But there is 2 reasons. One is that I didn't want to detail too much. I just wanted to cover it up because it was not part of the mapping project I did. That's one of the reasons I made it black. And the other one is that I think that the plane of shadow and stuff might even make it that kind of dark and subdued so you can't see it, so to speak. So I kind of both for leave me openings in the future for a future project, and secondly because there might be some other influences that we wouldn't have in the real world that kind of makes things, when you go deep into the earth or the planet like that, then there might be other things happening in a fantasy world that we wouldn't have in the real world. So those 2 reasons: one, egotism, because I wanted to keep it for a future project, and the other one is cool shadow plane influences and stuff. So, yeah.
To answer the chat, some of the northern cities, I just thought there hasn't been mentioned much in terms of modules or novels or computer games or anything. That was mostly southern half, and I just choose some random northern cities and spread them out, and just give it a little bit more to work with. But it's not just I put whatever there. I try and look at sort of what is canon in all the different books around that area and go, okay, well, this sort of fits. And then I'll go through Monstrous Compendium 5 from 2nd edition and go, okay, monster hasn't anyone heard of for a while. Because I like underused creatures. Weave them into the plot somehow.
Yeah. And then you're really doing a service, I think, to the Greyhawk community, because especially for all the newcomers that come into it, because they don't have all these references and they haven't heard of it, and it might be really hard for them to know what end to start. So to have someone do that, not only for the whole setting, because that might be overwhelming, but for a little bit at the time, I think that's an awesome idea to do it per country or per city or stuff like that. So you can kind of have it's like that little local tourist guide to come there and go there and what you find.
I was thinking initially of the back in Miss Dara days. I had a Poor Wizard's Almanac, which was great. It was like a little tour guide book, and it was just anybody who wasn't familiar to the setting could just pick it up and this is cool. It's just little bits and pieces. It wasn't, although it's like 200 pages to the book, it was written in you can just grab any bit from it and use it straight away. And that was sort of what I had in mind.
Yeah, and Mike, you worked on the World of Greyhawk primer.
Yeah,
Yeah, is
yeah.
that's a little bit of how to bring new players in and
I gave it a shot,
yeah.
and I got most of the information I want out there. I still kind of have some unfinished stuff,
Hmm.
but the setting is even. I was trying to really simplify it down to something readable, and it's still very thick and
Yeah,
time consuming to write.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah.
So like what kind of new cool things when you're done with all the city ones? What other cool and then the Rift Canyon? What other kind of
Uh,
topics or stuff are you thinking about digging into?
I'm just trying to think. I've got a list here somewhere.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, sort of
Other
bunch
than
of
geography,
bunch of shrines and
Ah.
um,
I like the
probably
shrine idea because then you can
Yeah.
explore these religions.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
yeah, and with both of them, I've got like you can put it here or here, and I choose sort of different areas because if some people don't transplant stuff, say if they'll go, oh, it's in Lothwick, I can't put it anywhere else. It's like, yes, you can. You know, it's
Yeah.
next to a forest and a hill. There's another location here, here, and here where you can stick it. It's
Hmm.
fine, you know.
Yeah.
So some more cities, some more shrines. I'll probably whack in one about
Don't
using Feywild with Greyhawk and also Shadowfell with
Ah,
Greyhawk.
that is a
That way,
great idea. Yep.
because they're so built into 4E and 5E and Pathfinder, if you're playing that, then
Yeah. Yeah, that because the face side of Greyhawk has been underutilized. It's been mentioned in their Elvish influence and there are some monsters and stuff, but no one has taken a kind of comprehensive grip on that part of it. And it's kind of yeah, so that I think needs a lot of
yeah.
there's a
I
lot of
mean, it
cool
came up
openings.
in
Yeah.
the Paul Kidd novels where they were going through and doing White Plume Mountain and that because there was a fairy and they had like one of the fairy clans allying with the Drow,
Yeah.
and so that was sort of fleshed out a bit there. And I don't think those adventures were published or whatever, but the novels were Greyhawk canon because
Mhm.
TSR released them. So
Yeah. They have the Greyhawk
um,
logo even on them. So
yeah,
so
so
yeah.
it's like,
Yep.
and what was funny was that they actually defeated Loth's avatar at one point, which means she was Unco, and then Forgotten Realms had that whole, oh, by the way, Loth's absent for a while because of, you know, an in-canon game that happened in Perth, Australia.
What do you think of Carlos Castle Entertainment's question? Oh, you've got that in the chat.
Yeah.
already.
So just I stood it past because I know a lot of people. Well, some people didn't like From the Ashes, but I'm like, well, it's still canon. They have still released it, so I just put it after that point.
Mhm.
I know some of the Greyhawk Channel games are quite a while after that point, but
Yeah.
and that's fine. There's sort of different things happening at different time zones.
Yeah.
My thoughts on the Greyhawk Wars are: there's people, you know, if you don't like Tenor getting trashed or the Pale getting trashed, there's people in the world that want to put it back to the way it was. So just play through that. Play through those
Yeah.
people organising
Right.
allies and resources and
yeah.
putting it back the way. Because,
Mhm.
you know, nobody would be happy with IUs conquering a quarter of the continent.
Yeah.
With maybe
Yeah.
IUs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but hardly anyone. And it's like, yeah, I love the Horn Society, one of my favorite villains. So I'm thinking somehow I'll get the bastards back in the game again. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I was thinking they would help prop up the sort of Bakloonish to help get the IUs back in his box.
yep, yep. So meaning when you get powerful like that, you tend there's a lot of enemies that you get, and your enemy's enemy is your friend, and I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of going when IUs becomes too strong, then that is a lot of my enemies. The enemies of my enemy is my friend. More and more will start thinking that way, and you will get interesting, at least not alliances, but at least kind of they can work together a little bit and cease their hostilities when there's a bigger bad guy around and stuff. So that
So-
opens up. Yeah.
I suppose as an extreme version, you could have Horn Society and Vecna cults working against Ayurs.
Yeah, yeah. I have a truce between Shieldlanders and Horn Society because of it, so to speak. They both lost their homelands, and they kind of recognize each other's claims and have a kind of a non that meaning we're not going to fight each other. We're going to fight our common enemy, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So that opens up a cool. Oh, Carlos is really active in chat
Sorry.
today. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Carlos, for coming in here. So, yep. Yeah. The post. Yeah. I don't know how much did
Could have been much more interesting.
Yeah. How much of the war? How much did the war affect up in the lands in the Thelonian the
Let's have a look, because they had
barbarians up
that
there?
5 should be 1 and the Blades of Korash stuff, where
Yeah.
basically Ayurs pretended to be a forgotten Stonefist
Yeah,
champion,
Vatun or something like that.
led them to attack
Yeah.
his neighbours,
Hmm.
and then he buggered off.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how much it really affected like the Frost and the Snow barbarians on the other side of the
Really?
I
mountain.
thought they were kind of isolated from the whole thing. They were so far away that they were kind of
Well,
or were they? You guys,
that
know
was
more
the
about
missed
that.
opportunity.
Okay.
Those modules were supposed to lead into kind of the Greyhawk Wars thing. The whole
Ah.
point of that adventure was to bring back Vatun and unite all these barbarians, and then they were going to go conquering and crap. And none of that happened. It was Ayus. It was a fake out, and then you don't really hear about them after that. So it's almost like it didn't happen.
Yep. That's cool. Oh, yep. And now we have to say welcome to Amanda. That's
Hi,
awesome.
Amanda.
Yep. Carlos,
Glad to have you.
awesome wife that does
Happy
so many cool
belated
things.
birthday to Amanda.
Hmm. Yep. So we cool. So you've been up in the far northeast, up in the cold. So any other areas of special interest in Greyhawk that you kind of, Blake, that you have?
Yeah, I'm going to do a bunch over in the northwest. Sefmer.
Yeah,
I can never
you're going
pronounce
to
it.
reach the Bakloonish west, so to speak, or that's actually the Bakloonish east if you look at it.
Tovar and all of those sort of areas.
Yeah.
And then I'll just keep doing sort of northwest and northeast.
Yeah.
Before I do the north anymore on northeast, I'll probably catch up with I forgot his name now. Carlos, I think. Castle Entertainment.
Carlos.
Carlos. Yeah.
Seeing what he's done, because if he's already done it, it seems silly to do it again. And yeah, maybe I can.
Well, I don't think he's done it in your style. Is the thing. So I wouldn't be discouraged.
To answer his question, my group got busy with sort of work and looking after their kids and stuff. So my home group's sort of on hold at the moment. But since I've been working on this Rift Canyon thing, I'm sort of been working on notes for a 2nd edition Rift Canyon game. I figured they would start in like Radagast City and just sort of make their way towards Rift Canyon. And have some bandits and cultists and maybe some people trying to prop up tenors and pale and get into that area a bit.
Okay, now we have Mordecai the Bot is all over the place, but
Yeah,
I tried to
always
not
throws me.
read it because I think, that was a big comment, and then I have to kind of stare it and go back again. So yep. So it's cool. But now I need to ask, because I noticed more and more kind of cool gamers coming from Australia. How is the gaming scene and the Greyhawk scene and stuff in Australia?
Yeah, there's quite a few sort of 5e and Pathfinder players at cons, and there's not a lot of podcasts or anything, I don't think. But yeah, there's still, when you go to convention, there's still sort of 40% 5e people, 40% Pathfinder, and then 20% every other indie game and that.
Yeah.
It's fairly busy. I know PAX Oz the other day, like last year, did pretty well. They had quite a few tables of people doing 5e. But a lot of us were playing Greyhawk back in 2nd edition days, so we've all sort of come from Greyhawk and gone to other places, and some of them sort of come back, and it's been going for a while. I've got the original maps on my wall in my other room. It's
Nice.
So I'm probably one of the few Greyhawkers that don't have any Greyhawk maps on the walls, and which is kind of weird since that's my kind of my half-time job is to work on Greyhawk maps. But my excuse is that I work new editions all the time and I tweak them, so I have on my big computer monitors. That's where they usually belong. So I have a few in the background. You can, if I move my camera, you can see there are a few small printouts I did back together with some of my photographs, but I don't have any of the big maps, either mine or Darlene's or the Paizo Hawk maps. So yeah.
Darlene's maps. I've got one, like the ones from the Ashes. It's like the original maps, but they're reshaded. Because
Yes,
like forests and
exactly.
mountains
I
are
think
darker.
I have to ask
Yeah.
how, because I forgot to ask Darlene, but when I look at it, it looks like they took the original work, rescanned it again, and tweaked the colors a bit because it's more,
Don't like it.
it's darker colored and so on. So yeah, so they did. It's the same artwork in the bottom. I'm pretty sure. But
Yeah. I wasn't sure if I had faded one, so it's like, no, that's actually the way they were printed.
Exactly,
It's
they
like,
were
oh,
print. Yeah, they were printed darker than the original set. Yeah.
Okay. Someone's just asking what Australia was in a living campaign. I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, you were part of the you had a
Huh.
yeah, well, I guess almost the whole world, at least the role-playing game world had it because the Scandinavian countries.
Perrinland. Well, that's ironic.
Oh.
I love Igwif, so that's appropriate.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's
right.
that's really cool. Well, I guess you have an advantage. You're English-speaking, native English speakers in Australia too, so that kind of makes it easily digestible, so to speak. So yeah. And what about any Native American or Australian games that come out of the RPG scene or something like that?
Not really. No, it's I mean, there's quite a few 5e players here, and some
Yeah.
of note, like MT Black and Merrick Blackman has sort of made their name in the D&D community, and they're both in Sydney, I think.
I did not know that.
But yeah, most of us, get up in the middle of the night or whatever to play games with people in the States or in Europe and
Yep.
go from there.
Yep.
I don't think we've taken to the internet as much as like people in the States. There's a lot of home groups that, they might listen to the D&D podcast and that's it. They're not tweeting about it and doing selfies or table selfies and stuff
Yeah.
like.
But
American
that's kind of
do, but-
interesting because Australia is this huge country where I thought people were so separated by distance. So I thought online playing would be kind of a natural for a very
Yeah.
dispersed country with lots of area and few people in it. Yeah, like Canada or I know that.
Yeah,
up in,
I think it's
yeah.
more like Google Hangouts and not,
Ah,
Twitch
yeah.
big name streams or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's getting there.
Yeah. It's kind
Oops,
of
got more
it's-
questions.
Yeah. Oh, we have Gary's
Yep,
here. Thank
Gary's
you. Welcome,
looking.
welcome. Good to have you again.
Okay.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, Rabbits and Fences, the RPG. Mhm.
it's more kangaroos and heaps of buggers nowadays.
Yeah, that will be
But,
like the
um,
Moose RPG for Canada and stuff. So yeah.
But yeah, we did have
That's a
some
good question.
we did have some TSA UK products and quite a few. Like we had White Dwarf magazine for a while,
hmm
but things
So-
were never regular. So like Dragon magazine back in the day and White Dwarf, you would get them in order and you might get a glut of one edition and then nothing for 3 months. It was kind of
Wow.
all over the place until
Yeah.
What
recently
about
when
Gaming Workshop? Is that big? in
there was
Australia?
quite a bit. It's not as big as it used to be. Like 10 years ago, there was a you'd have your regular gaming shop and then your Warhammer 40k shop next to it. But now that's sort of not as much. People order stuff
Right.
online and download
Yeah.
PDFs. And as much as I love Warhammer and Warhammer 40k, it's not cheap. People
No,
don't
that's
have as
true.
much
And I guess
disposable
isn't that
gaming
the
income now.
yeah, that's a general problem in Australia. You have to put the freights on top of it because everything needs
Yeah.
to get shipped there. So yeah.
Well, like a $40 book, we're paying 80 to 100 for, and it's purely because of air freight. As soon as it's sort of above a pound in terms of weight, it's the price goes up because of air freight, and so it's like I'll just grab the PDF because it's just
That was the
Wow.
good thing in Sweden, was that there were so many people living in Europe, so you kind of tagged along. It was not just for the few Scandinavians. We got with the Germans and the Brits and French and all the other ones. We got like a huge shipment was sent on a container there. So yeah,
Sorry, Fabix, just
that was a good one. That was a good one. Yep, that was a good one. Yep. Yeah, Bavix, that was the best summary of Warhammer I've ever heard. Yeah, or read. Yeah.
I stopped with Warhammer financially and because I ran out of space.
Yeah, I never played Warhammer really.
It's just,
I've just
collecting wise, there's no room for that stuff anymore.
Yeah, I was part owner of the game store, and we had a lot of Warhammer and stuff in there, so I looked at it and kind of seen all the stuff that way, but I've never actually played it. Yeah.
I had some miniatures for a while, and it is quite relaxing just putting on some music and just painting them, and you do the base color and then the next color and then the next color, and it is good to just tune out because you've had a crappy week at work or whatever. It's
yeah. So how's the local friendly game stores? Are they plentiful? Are they in all big cities in Australia, or how's that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Even in the cities with only 30 to 50,000 people or whatever, but again, there's not as many as there used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
You just don't get the foot traffic, so they can't pay the rent. So they can't be in the city. They'll be a bit further out in the suburbs.
Yeah, but that's the same thing here. I've lived here for 8 years now, and we lost at least a third of the game stores I know of. We had within 50 miles are disappearing. But the few, they've actually got a few, but they seem to have not been that many small ones. So there are a few bigger ones instead. And so if they're
a lot of them are also like comic stores or they're board game stores as well.
That's the same here. Yeah, and it's
like
go on.
Especially the comic stores has propped them up a lot thanks to all the DC and MCU movies has boomed comics, and they've been able to sort of take the slack.
Yeah. Here's the Magic the Gathering, I think, is one of the mainstay of that business, so to speak. Yeah. And RPGers and others are a side thing, but
because
I have to drive an hour to get to the closest shop.
It's about half an hour here, but it's from my memory, when sort of like WoW and EverQuest and all that came out, a lot of people left sort of gaming, and then Magic came out, and everyone sort of went into that, and then people got sick of WoW and sort of came more back, sort of with the 5e boom. So it has definitely picked up again.
Yeah, and now board games in general, old style tabletop, where you sit around the table and roll dice, board gamers are huge too. So I think that the analog style gaming is coming back again, or at least in parallel. It's a self-sustaining. So it's
well, like some of my friends live on different parts of the same city, but it's like we don't have to travel. We can just fire up Google Hangouts and just use that. And I was like, you don't like driving? Don't.
Yeah. It actually works really well that way. So that's cool. So what got you into starting writing articles and publish them and go from your own game
I definitely needed to stay inside because there's man-eating koalas out
there. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now we know where those bugbears come from, so to speak. So, yeah.
But it's I've always done writing and that sort of thing as a kid, and sort of as I got older, and you're kind of doing half an article every time you're prepping for a game anyway, and I just wanted to sort of flesh it out more and write it out so that anyone else could pick it up and read it. Also, as you get busier, you need to make your notes better and more easily understood. Like when I ran some adventures for a local convention, I had so much stuff going on. I'm like, I can't remember what the hell I wrote 2 weeks ago. It's my writing that I wrote, so I'm like, no, I've got to flesh it out better. And that's kind of practice revision for writing articles. You just read it through, you go away, do something else, come back, read it again, and like, oh, that doesn't sound right at all. I need to change the order of sentences. I need to explain what the topic is better. And it's just practice and review. Like that hex map, I've done like 30 hours, and I've revised so many chunks of it so many times, and that's just a hex map. It's not nowhere near the level of the stuff that Anna's doing. So it's just revising and rising. Go away, do something else, come back, fresh look at it. Oh God, this bit needs to be fixed. Bit needs to be fixed. And
but that's my experience too. That when you start putting things out there for the general public, other gamers to look at, then you get a lot of valuable feedback instantly, and after a while I become much more self-conscious when it's supposed to be viewed and used by others. So it's all the people that use my maps and come with criticism, good or bad or whatever, but it's the perfect Q&R, because if I screw up, people will tell me, and that's the only way my maps can get better. And now I've had well over a decade of thousands of Greyhawk gamers have scrutinized every bit of my map, and that have kind of made them now not rock solid, but they're way better. Not only thanks to me, but thanks to hundreds and hundreds of gamers telling me what's wrong, what needs to be fixed. So
Well, when I'm like sharing my hex map, I'm not thinking, yay, what's he's going to offer me a job or anything. No. But if one person says, hey, I really like that, I'm going to use it in my game, then it's worth it. You know, it's worth sharing the work you've done and helping other people enjoy the setting.
And often when you get really harsh criticism, I read what the actual criticism is, and then I skip all the
sorry, the chat.
So we have to that one. There's so many wonderful comments. So Dark Sun is training wheels for Australia. That one is so good.
Well, I'll share with them the funny story. Back in 2E days, we actually stopped playing Dark Sun because it was there was no escapism, because we were playing it in summer. And when you're reading these little flip books where it's like, show a picture of the hero sweating, read out how hot it is, and it's like outside. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. So we went back to doing a Greyhawk game set. I think it was up near the Pale and stuff, because we just wanted something colder to escape to, at least mentally.
And it's like, we've never played up in the cold in Scandinavia. We never went up to Barbarians and the fjords up there and stuff, because there was that would have been much escapism either. So it's kind of funny. But it's it's cool. So you think about expanding on your public creation stuff in the future? Keep doing it?
I think so. It's fun. It takes your mind off work. It's good to be able to share stuff with the community. You know, and if 3 other people use my maps or my cities or whatever, well, it's not my city or my version of a city in a game, then that's cool. I've helped them enhance their game, and they can share me stuff, and we can all help each other. Yes, of course, it would be nice if WotC put out some canon stuff, but that doesn't mean we can all keep in mind what we're all doing and keep us in a fairly sort of similar area.
And now I need to ask, because you use Tribality, or so please tell us a little bit about that site. It's
it's
mostly, I wanted to know how you got started there.
Okay. I said to a friend, sort of, how do I get my name out there? And because I've got plenty of ideas, and how do I get some sort of exposure without, because obviously, hundreds of people must apply to WotC for jobs or whatever. And I'm like, no, I want to share my thoughts and ideas with the community, because I've been playing and running games for so long. And a friend said, well, actually, I'm taking a break for Tribality. You can step in there if you want. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a go. I sent him some sample ideas, which is like how to use a volcano in a game, which makes it part of the campaign. How to take inspiration from movies and re-skin it so it's a fantasy idea. And they're like, yep, they look good. And I did that series for a while. And then the well was dry, and I'm like, no, I've got no more ideas. I took a break for about 6 months. And I was kind of looking through my old gaming stuff, and I thought, what can I do here? And I thought, let's do some Greyhawk stuff. And I've got, years of all these notes that I just need to rehash and just polish up to look more professional. So, started doing that. Because I think I shared some on Twitter the other day. I had some stuff from 94, 95, 96 of Greyhawk games. It's all 2E. And it's like, oh, I remember this. Oh, yeah, like that group of characters were nutcases. They had one of them, the party was gnomes and dwarves, and they were socialists, and they were going to overthrow Greyhawk City rulership, and just, but we rolled with it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yep.
But,
I love you have an Australian thing going in chat here with Amanda and stuff. That's so cool. She's from Australia.
Blue bugbears.
Yep.
Blue bugbears.
But Yeah, I mean, in the past, I've ran it with Pathfinder and Rollmaster, Palladium Fantasy System.
Oh, so you've gone way. You've been more of a kind of a deviant than me, because I've run it with all the different editions of D&D except fifth. I've only played in fifth. I haven't run games in fifth yet, but I've stayed with Pathfinder for like 10 years. So I went from 3.5 and then I tried fourth a little bit. And I didn't like
I
it. So when
only skipped
Pathfinder came,
fourth.
then I jumped on it and I've stayed on it since. So
Yeah. No, I've done it with Dungeon World, did it with Palladium, did it Rollmaster second edition back in the day.
Wow.
Because most of them have all the classic creatures of, hill giants and
Mhm.
griffins and
Yep.
rust monsters and
Sense.
basilisks and all that. So you don't need to make up stats. The creatures are already in their books.
yeah,
And you just adventure around the setting. Like those 2-page adventure cards I used in Rollmaster and I used them in Palladium. They were still Greyhawk games.
hmm
It's just they weren't second edition D&D,
Yeah.
But yeah, we still had
Rollmaster.
a lot of fun, tried different things.
So is fifth edition in your go-to game system for the future, or what do you think?
Yeah, for anything that's sort of D&D related. Yeah, it reminded me more of second edition than third and fourth did.
Yeah.
Because I like 4, but it functions like WoW in the
Mhm.
sense of
Yep.
you've got to have people with roles in a team of DPS and
Yeah. hmm
tank and
Mhm.
crowd control and all of that,
Yeah.
which is fine if you want that sort of game.
hmm
Third was too clunky because I'm not a min maxer. I know some people are. That's fine. I like to interact and have life between quests and stuff. And yeah, so fifth reminded me the most of second. So
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah.
but more streamlined. I mean, I've got a fond spot in my heart for second because that's what I started with.
Mhm.
But hardly anybody actually played it by the rules. Like people ignored spell components, they ignored encumbrance, they ignored demi-human level limits.
It's
The
so
list goes on.
closed
Yeah.
game.
hmm
Everyone ignores that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
But I played some games, in person with some friends over in New Zealand, and they were the same. Didn't bother with initiative, spell speeds, and weapon speeds. Didn't
Yeah,
use
weapon speed. We
components.
played with that for a little while, and me running games thought it was fun, but the players were like, no. Yeah, so we have to skip it. So, yeah.
Yep. Palladium, did you do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? No, we did Palladium Fantasy. We did a bit of Riffs.
hmm
TMNT was one of the ones we didn't do. But a lot of people have a fondness for it, because the comics and the TV show
Yeah.
and all that.
Yep. hmm
But
Oh.
yes, there was a lot of crunch to the Palladium games. We tried it. Some bits are good. There's like too much paperwork. We moved on.
Yeah, I have a book that is somewhere sitting on the shelf here that is book full of weapons and stuff that was like 300 pages something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Compendium of
yeah.
fire.
Mhm.
Yep. Weapons
Yep,
and firearms.
that one was really cool. So I took some
Yeah, that was great. It
pictures
had really good diagrams of
Mhm.
The armor through the ages and
Yep,
weapons through
yep,
the
that
ages.
you could
And
pick up names and cultural variants of weapons and stuff like that. That was kind of really cool. So
Yeah,
that was
a lot of people used that didn't play Palladium, that they played other games.
hmm
It was quite a popular
Yeah.
book across.
It was like I used a
Right,
lot of the
Palladium.
inspiration from my map making came from Harn, the Harn world, and
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, because I love the how they tackled cartography and world building and
Yeah.
stuff from Harn. So I
super realistic thing. I remember Han from back in the day.
Yep.
Because there was like D&D, Han, and RuneQuest,
Yeah. hmm
and they've just been around forever.
Yep. Yep. And RuneQuest and they was Middle Earth roleplay used the RuneQuest system.
Yes,
I
which
think
was
back
kind of watered down Rollmaster.
Yeah. The Rollmaster was like you can go into hit critical hit things that were like 6 pages long or something, and you
man.
go. It was
Yeah,
like doing
it's-
major surgery when you had to figure out where you got hit and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah,
it was
you
like
could easily get so messed up from one fight, and
Yeah,
then like
mhm.
we're going to take a month off to.
Much
Yep,
of a simulation.
Yep. So that was
Yeah,
for if people were interested in D&D physics and D&D physiology, then I think that was the rule system for them, so to speak. It was.
To answer chat,
Mhm.
I like underused areas, so I'm sort of doing northeast at the moment. I'm going to do northwest as well, and sort of bounce between them, and just the areas that hasn't got the attention. Like there's heaps happening in Greyhawk City and Kierland and
Yeah.
Great Kingdom, so I'm sort of focusing on other areas. my next game will probably be Rift Canyon area. But in terms of absolute favorite, probably Perrin Land. It's just yeah, you've got the mountains and the mist and the forest, and you've got the demons not too far away. Got a bit of a mix of trade and culture. I love that area.
And you have a lot of like barrier areas there's like that natural, like you have the mountains up there, and you can have all sorts of crap up in the mountains that can come up and down, and yeah, so it's like if you take a like Ernst or something like that, there's just these gentle neighbors around and a few little hills, and there's not much to work with, so to speak. But Perrin Land is one of these that you have ample opportunities for anything to live up there in the mountains.
Yeah, you can start in a higher gear in Perrin Land because there's heaps of stuff nearby, and it's just you can idle the car for a while before you get moving.
Yeah, you have barbarians up in the north with tigers and wolves and whatnot, and then you have Ayus and the biggest forest with all the nasty critters up in the east, and their elves and their demons and the wizards and all sorts of stuff in history. So yeah, so in that way, what I didn't like was what they did in Living Greyhawk when they Germanified it so much. There's so many German names in there that I get like, oh. So on my campaign map, I'm not going to have anything that sounds like the Berlin U-Bahn and stuff. So I'm kind of I will declutter it that way.
Because that doesn't sort of fit with all the stuff around it. It's not really German.
Well, the problem is that I guess if I'd grown up in America, I'll probably accept it. The problem is that when you grow up next door to Germany, and when you go to Germany and you see these things, and it more remind me of subway and train station games and stuff like that. So that,
because if you wanted that, you could play Warhammer Fantasy, where it's the whole thing's. You know.
Yeah, and also I guess that speaking Swedish is closer to German, so German names and stuff, it's too close to home for me. Just like you don't want to play in Dark Sun because it's sweating us home, so I don't want to play in something that so that's probably why I don't like the two. Fantasy to me sounds better in English with a little bit of other sprinkled in, but German, no. For some reason, German and fantasy, and it's kind of weird because Germany is so full of awesome fantasy stuff like castles and old towns and cities.
So you never played like the Dark Eye, or?
No, not really. And there's now they have Zweihander and a bunch of stuff. So no, I haven't played any of that. But when I go to Germany, there is so many wonderful places in Germany that just looks like a fantasy city. It's like, so you can go to some of the German towns and cities are so fantasyful. It's fantastic.
Was Perrin Land supposed to be modeled after Germany or Switzerland?
Switzerland, I think, because you're surrounded by, but a large part of Switzerland speak German, and well, I guess a German might say it's Schweizerdeutsch, so it's a different German, but but to someone who don't speak German that well, it sounds German to me. So, and the names are German in large part of at least 2/3 of Switzerland, or half of it at least.
Because I didn't get a Germanic vibe from like Ket or the Böcklunisch areas at all.
Exactly.
So
So Perrin Land, but that was something that came much more in the LG, because the old name like Schwarzenbruin and stuff like that doesn't sound like German or Switzerland. So but afterwards, when Living Greyhawk came out, then that's when all the and I took away the worst ones. I didn't Lake Geneva. Lake Geneva.
Lake Geneva.
Sanfeyondi, Lost Divers. Lost Divers sounds cool.
Divers.
You're right, Gary. And Europeans, we are so tribal with all our different languages and customs and all that stuff. Here, Europe is not the melting pot that America is that way. We hold on to our tribal little separate interests and foodstuffs and all sorts of things, and then all of a sudden we become very much European in some ways. But that's when we go on vacation, I guess. But that's true. So, but on the other hand, it's kind of nice to have that, because a lot of fantasy and Flanders and stuff is kind of European medieval that is based on. So in that way, it's kind of cool to to actually have had medieval castles and houses and stuff next door, and you can actually go there and see
Well, I
what
always remember the World of Greyhawk box set, and it's like there's a bunch of knights with a castle in the background.
Yeah.
It's like you can't be much more medieval than that.
Yeah, yep, and so that's really cool. And I've been to we had in Sweden every summer we had in on the island of Gotland in Visby, that is Visby in Swedish, but that's the a city that actually has an original medieval city wall and a city center that is a World Heritage Site. So you have a medieval wall and with medieval towers and stuff. It's not modernized afterwards. It is from like the 12th century or something like that, and it's still there, and it's preserved almost in exquisite detail. So it looks like it was built a few hundred years ago. So it's really, it looks like a film setting. And outside there is an open field that they use for fairs of all sorts, and sometimes there's a parking lot in the summer. But they have a medieval week once a year, and you go there, and we actually had a tent there once, and we sat there and camped out and had played a game, and then we went in the evening to the tournament, and we had it as part of the game, and damn, it was good. And then we had another early in my gaming career, we had to go a few miles away from home. They had another similar, that was not a medieval city wall, but it was still old medieval buildings and stuff around it. And we went to another town that had a medieval festivity every summer, and we went there, and then we gamed afterwards. And that was a huge inspiration to see real people dressed up in full armor and stuff battling it out, and throw each other off horses and stuff. Oh, that was fantastic.
We have the SCA over here as well, and they do sort of medieval tournaments, and there's also Varangian Guards, who are some people who do more realistic fights. But yeah, so I think twice a year they have like a medieval fest where you can get drinking horns and the classic Viking helmets and all that.
Yeah, so I invented.
They're quite popular.
Yeah, and now they're spreading more and more. They have them around here too and stuff. But the cool thing, when you have them in places where you actually have real medieval buildings in the background and stuff, that makes it so much like this is so cool. And that's when I invented in my game, Littleburg in Furundi was kind of a gathering for the various knightly orders and stuff to have tournaments to core who's the best rider and who's the best archer, and have real tournaments and stuff. So we invented in my campaign with Littleburg was that was one of the main reason that the large town of Littleburg was there. It kind of grew in the summer, and they had these huge tournaments when Orders of the Heart, all the different chapters, and some of the other knightly orders and others, Shetland and others.
So you have a lot of tents everywhere,
exactly.
And petty theft, people stealing stuff that it gets left out.
So we had, and I made special detailed rules for, so when we played tournaments and stuff like that, we actually rolled your defense rolls. Instead of taking 10 on armor class, you actually rolled your armor class rolls, so you can dodge things and stuff like that too. And so we kind of upped the ante a bit. So we made the combat rules a little bit more detailed when you had fights like that. And then we went wild with it, and it was so much fun when you've been during the day or in the evening, and then you played during the day, and then you actually went, and then the day after you played again. So we had so much fun with that.
Well, back on when they used to have Usenet, and people used to chat about rec games, D&D, and talk about all sorts of role-playing stuff. People used to say, hey, if you're going to run a game, do these 20 things. And it's like ride a horse, visit a castle, try archery, and just have a go at it. They don't expect you to master it or nothing, but just have a go at it, so that way you can visualize what's happening in the game better.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. I haven't tried the horse much though.
No, I mean, I've ridden a camel, but not a horse. So it's like, well, you know.
Yeah, I tried camels, and I've tried horses, and I've tried donkeys, but I haven't been particularly successful in either of them. So I almost broke a leg once on a horse, but because the horse wanted to scrub me up against that wooden fence thing, and my leg got smashed in between. So
they're a bit temperamental. Same as camels. I was on top of the camel, and there was another one sort of next to me, and it had its head like here, and it kept sort of looking at me, and I'm like, I'm not going to do nothing. I'm just going to hang up.
Yeah, so you've gone on your Bakloonish trade route and through the Paynim, the plains of the Paynims and stuff like that. Yep. Yep.
No,
let's see what we have in chat here. So
MIT.
Yeah, well, we did SCA stuff. You'd all dress up and you'd eat sort of authentic recipes, which
Mhm.
are really strong in flavour. So, like, instead of dicing up the vegetables finely, they'd just be quartered. So, like, the soup was really chunky and really strong in flavour.
Yeah. Hmm.
And they'd have a sort of a sing song at the end of it where you'd each take a third of the song,
Yeah.
and for each table would sing at a different time, and you'd all sing until you all sort of go through again and again and again until it all matches up. And it's quite, you know, it's old time entertainment, but it was
Mhm.
quite good to do. It make
Yeah.
you feel like, oh, you're actually in that
Yep.
environment.
Hmm. Yep.
And most of the time, because when you're in the SCA, you're talking in character. So you're playing a Middle Ages person and so on. You don't talk about electronics or the news or YouTube or whatever. You just
Yeah.
do that, and that it does
Yeah.
make you a better role player in that sense, because you
Yeah.
just get used to getting in your character's head.
Yeah, I haven't really LARPed. That became huge in Sweden roughly around the time when I moved here. So I missed a lot. But that's something they have areas where they have huge LARPs every year and stuff, and they have some areas that they actually build like a town or something like that that is a stage, a scene that they have every summer and stuff. And I remember the military actually lent out during the summer some
Wow.
exercise areas for yearly LARPs, because they had bunkers and stuff that they could actually clad and do like dungeons and all stuff like that in, so to speak. So that
Yeah.
was one of the
I remember
yeah.
Back in when Roger Moore was doing Dragon magazine back in the day, some soldiers in the Gulf War said, you know, we're sitting around the base, can you send us some stuff? And TSR said, sure, and sent several crates worth of stuff to them just to keep them entertained. And then he sent back a thank you letter, and it would have been, you know, $10,000 worth of books
I
and stuff.
think I read about that. He wrote about that, I think, in one of the Dragon editorials or something about that. Yep.
Yeah, so, oh, good
Yep.
on them for
Hmm.
helping the troops and stuff.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
Yes, Gary, that's right. Yeah, I've been. We have to talk about that later, but yeah, I've been doing some cool stuff. Yep. Back in the day before I moved here. Yep.
but
Okay.
we,
So yeah.
sorry,
Go on. Please go on.
we because when I ran Pathfinder on Greyhawk, I didn't want just to be murder hobos. I wanted them to have a point of sort of what they're doing. So, and I've never been keen on bards. So of course the whole group wanted to play bards just to annoy me. So I'm like, well, hang on. How about the King of Nyrond sends you into North Province and the old, you know, Great Kingdom to disrupt the hold that the evil church has on stuff, because Church of Hextor is one of the big power sort of groups over there. And they're like, okay, so we're all going to take instrumental or singing skill and we're going to do like a band tour of the region.
Ooh.
And then undercover, we're going to raid all these evil churches and set them against each other and that. And that was one of the best campaigns I've ever done. It was so good.
That sounds awesome fun. Yeah.
The players were so keen on, you know, screwing over the evil churches and setting them against each other and challenging evil paladins to dance-offs and all sorts of wacky stuff.
Oh, wow.
But it just worked really well because they had an ongoing quest, but kind of, you know, hey, what are you doing now? And they were keen to decide how they're going to raid or they're going to stuff people up, rather than me presenting them with quests.
Oh, yeah, that's if you get a gaming group and you get their kind of mojo going in creative wise, that then the campaign just runs itself, and you just have to kind of stay together with them and kind of come up with the details, and they kind of come up with the quest. Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love that. Yeah.
The beautiful thing was that the ranger's like, I don't want an animal companion. It's a bit boring. What can you do for me? So I'm like, okay. He met a veggie pygmy, and that was his animal companion. And he had a kind of empathetic link with it.
Yeah.
But what they didn't know is at night when they're resting, it would go out and put its spores into stuff, because it's a plant. That's what they do. They propagate, they spread. So anytime there's something wounded, it would go up and touch them and put its spores in them. It would kill like rats and stuff. So as they're traveling around the old Great Kingdom in North Province, there's just a herd of growing veggie pygmies following them everywhere. And we were a good 6 sessions in before I realised what was going on.
Yeah.
The look in their faces was great.
Yeah, Gary has an interesting question. Like, do you use the colleges of old lore? And that's kind of, yeah, back in the day when, back in the day when bards had to be first, they had to be, they started out as fighters and
Oh, yeah, and
thieves,
then
and
thief,
then
and then
and then they
Up to all
started
the boobs.
druidism studies and magic users too. There was some they had, it was that was the first example of what later became an idea of prestige classes, so to speak.
yeah, they were kind
Yeah.
of druids towards
Hmm.
the end,
Yeah,
because in
and
you know
yeah.
in real world in the Celts, bards were teachers
Hmm.
of
Yep.
clan the
Yep. So
people, but
that was really cool. So I tried, yeah, I tried to Ted, it's the old faith, so to speak. So I try to the old bards, so to speak. They are I it's and I used the 3.5 prestige class that was True Bards, whatever it was called. I used that for a while, and I don't think I ever ran it in Pathfinder because no one wanted to. But they're still there, so to speak. So I treated them
yeah,
as they're regular bards that just go around entertaining, and then they're the True Bards, so to speak.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is a prestige class of it. So yeah. Yep, that's the old school bardism. And so what's your take on the old faith, meaning the druidism in have you kind of dug into it and used it a lot, and how do you see
Not a
that?
lot, because I always thought, well, isn't that just like the Church of Biori? I didn't sort of see
Oh,
where the distinguishation was.
yeah,
It was a bit, oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. For
'Cause even
me,
if it wasn't, aren't they going to be doing the same activities?
yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
For me, I've actually separated them more, so to speak. I've taken they are the old faith, meaning how the Flans actually, and they don't have any clerics in. So I take the druids are, they are not clerics of one deity. They are they worship the whole
Whole
pantheon, so to speak.
nature
So yeah,
pantheon.
so they have a Beori for the more motherly side of Earth, the meaning for crops and
yeah.
for fertility and stuff like that, and then Ubadhai for more the hunting and that
So
aspect.
that sounds more like original sort of Celtic druids from
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah,
That
exactly.
they,
Yeah. So they have it. So they don't have in my word of it, they don't have to temples and stuff. They go out to a place where there is an old oak or traditionally someplace, and then the druid kind of they do it for when a child comes, they kind of thank Beori for bringing them a child, etc., etc., and when there's harvest, and they can bless the fields and stuff like that. And they use so those gods are the druids, the whole pantheon, and people believe in it. So it's more like a different religion rather than
yeah,
just
yeah,
being a different church. That's how I see it, and because I want to have that schism between the old faithers and the new faithers, so to speak. But
yeah, yeah.
then there are some places where they've taken the old gods and actually for political reasons and whatnot, and actually built a temple of Beori, and they are clerics of Beori, and they kind of use that. But then they have moved away from the old faith and are now kind of a modern faith. But
Mm.
most of it in my campaigns are the Flannies. They have the old faith, so to speak, and they worship in a whole different way, and Druidism works differently than regular clerics and
Yeah,
temples
it
and
makes
stuff.
sense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, JB Garrison. Yeah, that's how I've done it. And so they have the bards and the druids and old traditions and an old language that is tied to it that they use for their sermons, and then the druids speak,
Mm.
and that have signs that can etch on things and stuff like that, and the sign language, and some
Yeah,
people speak it, so to speak, like that way.
yeah.
So
With
they separate it. Yeah.
druids and druid circles, I always had them as sort of an active group in whatever games I play.
Hmm.
So you'd have rangers and like bards acting as spies and
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
couriers, and rangers acting as wardens and sort of
Yeah.
protectors of the
Hmm.
group,
Yeah.
and they're actively trying to keep nature and natural areas safe rather than
Yeah.
just sit
Hmm.
and
Yeah, and
let
I also
let them.
tied them closer to elvendom because elves and the Flan were some of they lived there for so much longer than the other people. So the Flans and the Druids and the Flanny and the Old Faith and Druid and elvendom have these kind of cultural connections that way to nature and stuff in much more than much more respect each other than the newcomers do, so to speak. That kind of fought. They long found peace between the old faithers and elvendom, so to speak. So they have a tendency of supporting each other. So that's how my take on it. So yeah, it become my
What about
take on it.
you, Mike? Have you done much of druids in
Yeah.
your games?
Yeah.
Not a damn thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I tend to avoid Old Faith and like historically accurate bard stuff if I can. A lot of my bards is at least the characters in my campaigns are people. They're playing minstrels, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to the bard school in the city of Greyhawk, and there's not much more to that. I think I have kind of flirted with scalds in the Northeast.
That's what I see the true bards as scalds, so to speak. That way, both the barbarians up in the north, because that's an old word from a poet and an entertainer in old Scandinavian languages, are a skald. That's still used in modern day Swedish and Norwegian and Danish, that word. So I kind of kept it. And also I said that regular bards that are just have the normal class bards and the priest of Olidamara, I tie them together, so to speak. So it's a lot of bards and stuff. That's the church of Olidamara, and every kind of inn and with enough ill repute, so to speak, might have a shrine to it, and some of the bards are also clerics of Olidamara, and they keep those traditions alive, but that's part of the new faith, so to speak, what Origians said.
JB's saying that I don't have as much comedy material for the faith, I guess. I mean, Obed High's Grumpy Old Man.
Yep.
Beery is almost, I don't think I've ever used that character in my comics. They're just not as easy to mock.
Yep. Gary has a wonderful say, the infamous collection of skulls known as ABBA. Yep.
ABBA.
Yep, that's awesome. We have so many awesome comments in chat today. It's awesome. Thank you. This is so good.
With back on Dark Sun, bards didn't have magic. They were basically spies and assassins. And I like that idea because people that are in taverns or in the street making music, telling tales, they're going to hear a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I like, even on the worlds where they are doing magic, I like the idea of them being information brokers.
Yep.
You can have them work for the Old Faith, or you can have them be agents for what's his face, Mordekainen, and
And that's something that I forgot which edition, but they had a jack of all trades kind of skill that they could know a little bit of everything and bardic knowledge and stuff. So there's
I think that was third,
yeah, there's some mechanics for that too, that they can kind of go around doing a little bit of everything and kind of be that information, meaning there is a chance that a bard simply know whatever random stuff comes their way, they might know it. So it's kind of,
so you can treat them like Hermione and Harry Potter. They can just spout lore whenever they want. And,
and they go around and listen to things and whisper things and stuff like that. Yep. And they're the media of the medieval fantasy world. So yeah. Yep. Oh, now we've been all over the place here. So now we have. So let's first ask Mike a little bit what you're up to, and do you have any interesting articles and things in the pipeline here? So
I haven't been working on a damn thing.
Okay.
I've been promoting Blake's stuff, and I also. I think if you go to my blog, Greyhawkery, there's the latest news tidbits I threw up there. The Bards of Greyhawk have a comic that they're going to be kickstarting that's drawn by Jeff D. I don't know if it is actually Greyhawk, but it definitely, from the preview pages that they actually showed us that time when we had them on the show here, I think it's just like old school. Looking. Otherwise, and then I also made a note in there that we're changing the day of Legends and Lore coming up.
Yeah, that's good. That's take that. We have next week will be the last episode in this season, and then we start again on June 5th.
That's when all the Greyhawk channel is restarting.
Yep. So then then we will start again, and that will be on Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
Wednesday.
Yep.
Same time, but on Wednesday
Yeah.
instead.
I've been enjoying watching a lot of the AP because it's some of them like Path of the Plains is like 30 episodes in or something. It's like, holy cow, that's good even by offline standards. That's not too shabby at all.
Yeah.
We're switching days for various reasons. One of the main reasons is that Jay, Lord Gazumba, has his own stream that goes on the same time as ours right now. And we're trying to maximize both of our crowds.
Yeah, because we
time on
kind of
Twitch.
share a lot of the audience, so they're probably the
Yeah.
same. It's the same people interested in both shows, so we should be. And we also want Jay on the show at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for those reasons. So and also we collide with Critical Role too, I think, on Thursdays. So
Yeah, Critical
Yeah.
Role.
yeah, so there's several reasons that we want to
Yeah.
to switch to another day. So Wednesday is probably a
It's
good day
just
that way. Yep.
not ideal.
hmm
No, that's fair enough.
Yep. So that happens on June 5th. So that will be about a month when we will go off the
Won't be for
interwebs.
very long.
Yep. A little bit. So yep. So that. So that's the
But we don't want to lose any of our current viewers who've been coming every Thursday without fail, which is nice. We want to make sure everyone
yeah, it's
knows and
fantastic. Yep. We just have a little bit. I have a couple of huge commissions I need to finish by June. So I need to have other things to. Yeah, I'm deep into Midgard and for Kobold Press right now, and I'm working on another one for Gryffindor Games. And for their next Kickstarter, so those two things are digging. But I'm working on one project for my patrons for Greyhawk right now, and that's to chop up my current map into 70 pieces.
Lord.
So hang on a second. Let me show. So the original format. So let me go in and see if I can find one of the original. Here was. Let's see here. That's the one. So the very first versions of my map, they looked like this. So this was the way the map used to look like in the beginning. So it was this size that was actually A4 because I lived back in Sweden, so that's the European standard instead of letter, but they're almost identical in size. So it was simply because the computers were wasn't that powerful, so I had to work on one little area at a time because I couldn't fit more in. My computer grind to a halt simply by doing this much at the time. So that was the first 10, almost 15 years of the map. I did these kind of small little bits at a time. So then when I now when I've done the huge map for 5-6 years, it's been out, and people have always nagged me when do we get these small little bite-sized chunks back again? So I realized now is the time to do that, because now I have the stuff. So what I did was that I decided I have to think about it, because if you have this small version, letter size ones, then it's over 100 pages. And I was thinking it both for viewing it easily on tablets and phones and whatnot, but also to be able to print it. So I decided to go up a format just a little bit, and I did kind of an informal polls about my patrons and asked them what format. And basically, you want letter or 11 by 17. And 11 by 17 seems to be popular because most printers, inkjet printers and stuff, can handle 11 by 17. So it's easy to print that way, and you can go from 105 pages down to 70. So after but a lot of thinking back and forth, so I kind of worked back and forth a lot how to figure out how to cover the Flannies as effectively as possible in 11 by 17, and I have a half an inch of overlap on each side. So there is that much, half an inch of overlap between the maps. And then I figured out eventually that 70 pages will do it, because I wanted a basic grid so it's easy to know that your map go from north to south. And then there are some areas sticking out, like up here in the black ice, there are some pieces sticking out that I didn't want to have a, so I added sprinkled in a few extra ones. And we have the island groups here, they also sticking out the ocean. And then I had the barons, sea barons here. They were kind of split up in 4 maps, so I made a special sheet for them I'm going to do, and also the lordship of the isles here. And then there's a little bit of Monaland sticking out here, so I had to add a 70-page for them. So
it's funny looking at the maps. Back in Usenet days, like before there were internet forums and stuff, people would discuss stuff, and it's all text based. People would debate things, and everyone had this cool idea of putting, you go across the sea from Greyhawk and you'd have Forgotten Realms.
Yes.
And then they'd all argue for hours about, how would you line it up? Which bit would line up with what? And it's like, you're taking something from one world to stick it next to another. You can line it up however you want. You're already jumping the fence,
Yep. And I got a question from that on my website yesterday, so I'm going to try and figure out a good answer to that, because it's, in some ways it's kind of cool, but it depends on how you see the planet. If you see the planet as a planet and travel times and stuff, and back in the day I wouldn't have any problems with it, and for what I would do, I would put in a lot of other continents and make my own stuff there, so to speak, rather than put Forgotten Realms and stuff.
The Arctic bits sort of match up.
And that's what I will do, is that I will go in and make. But let me just show, before we go on, I'm going to show what each of these pages look like. And the way I did it is I created like this. And let's see here if I can do, no, that didn't work. So let's stay with this one. I'll zoom in a bit here and see. So up, I put a title at the top, and then I just kept most of it, and I've also cleaned it up, so I moved names and stuff that are on the edge here, so I kind of, that's part of the work. And on my map stream Tuesday, I actually sat down and made a bunch of these, so people can tell. There's probably about an hour of work for each page, because you have to clean it up first and take all the stuff in from the borders, so they're not there, and so I don't get overlap and names and stuff that are cut off. And then I have a mini map down in the bottom here where you can see where on the Flanies this little bit comes in, and then I put my logo on it, and then I put the stuff that Wizard of the Coast requires me to have in order to be fan creation compliant. I put that at the bottom, and then I put the licensing Creative Commons, meaning you have the right to make versions of this, to spread it, to copy it, print it, or do whatever you want. You can put this and notes on it and put it on your website and stuff, meaning it's a Creative Commons, so you have the right to do that. So I want people to know that, so to speak, and have it. And then there's a scale, and then here on the right there is the you can see the page number, and you can also see which pages goes to adjacent areas, so to speak. So that's basically it. So it's not much of a, it's the same thing, but it's 11 by 17, and you can fairly easy look at it on an iPad or even on the phone. They will work, and they're about 5 megabytes in size, so they're bite sized, and they come in JPEG, and they also come in PDF. And the reason for the PDF version is that if you go to a local print shop, like Staples here have digital print shops, and they're these copy shops and
that has
stuff.
Them here.
Yeah, and when you bring them a JPEG, a lot of printers have a difficulty with pixel aspect ratio for some reason, so you get them skewed one way or the other. PDF is a much more reliable format to print in, so that's why I put them in printing that way. So there is a PDF version as well that you can print, and a JPEG you can use. So I'm putting out right now for my patrons, I think I have, let's see here, I have 12, 13 different pages are done so far. And my goal is to do one per day for the next month or so, and then they will all be done. So at least one a day. So, yep. So that's that's what I'm up to at the moment when it comes to Greyhawk. The Lendor Isles, I have a few more rivers to put in, and once the rivers are there, then I'll start doing texturing. But I don't expect to to get that further down, because until about July, I basically will only work occasionally on Greyhawk. But then to the love, and I have to say I'm sorry to all my patrons and all the other fans that are waiting for more Greyhawk stuff. But I've taken the whole from Gen Con, the rest of the year, I blocked out to do Greyhawk only. So for at least more than 5 months this year, I will only do Greyhawk. Period. So I've no other commissions booked from at least July. I basically haven't booked anything. So I have that as spare
I was
time.
thinking
for
there's
whatever. Yeah.
there's something else over near Lendor Isles. It was one of the like adventure location spots of mystery, and
Yeah,
they
they
were
have
like
s-
half
this.
sunken
Yeah, they have
islands,
the
and there's
Spindrift Isles are next there, so to speak. The elves that
Yeah.
actually invaded and hang on a second. I'll zoom in a bit here and we move over to
Sinking, you know.
yep. So we
Yep,
have
that's
and this is something that I know that oh, that's we can look at it from
yeah, the sinking are from the Greyhawk Adventure book. That's what I was thinking of.
yeah.
I think that's north of the Sea Barons. I could be wrong.
Oh yeah, there's some, but those are things that aren't really set in any specific place.
Right.
So I kind of haven't. Some of them I put on my map, but some of them I avoided because they are supposed to appear a little bit wherever, so to speak.
Wherever you need them to.
Yeah, yep. So some of them are, and I'm going to take away the hexes here. And now I need to take back the general train. Yeah, so we have the Spindrift Isles that are devoid of any, because I didn't find any place names or nothing. They're just elven, kind of elven mystical realm. And then we have.
Are we talking sea elves or regular elves? Or
regular
both?
elves, I think. Yes. Yeah. I think they're regular elves. I think so. But and then we had during the LG, they kind of took over the Lendor Isles too. I'm pretty sure that Len Kafka wasn't in on that decision. So yeah. So we have the this area. So that's so there are a whole bunch of other islands. And Spindrifts is one of these, just like Selene, one of these areas that are very underutilized, so to speak. There's a lot of potential there. So yeah.
I think it's High Elves. At least my notes.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because to me it's one of these kind of elven refuge kind of or whatever. They kind of they go there to for old age or whatever or something. So yeah.
So with the clouds, is that like supposed to be like a Bermuda Triangle sort of vibe, or
yeah, that's the in LG campaign
Yeah.
that said that they simply the elves generated bad weather so much that no one could navigate there unless they had.
Well, that's like a red flag to a player, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like, come
exactly.
And,
You
come
need,
and get us.
yeah, I think that was the whole idea, but that was something they introduced in the Living Greyhawk campaign. So, and I realize now that I can probably do clouds better than I did 10 years ago, but they're decent. So yeah, but I know that the Len doesn't like it because it's not part of the old way of doing things. So yeah, and you can actually turn them off too. They're on a separate layer, so you can turn them off and not have them if you don't want to. So yeah. But so that's what I've been up to. Right now it's kind of low season on Greyhawk, but this fall will be then I will counter it, so to speak, because I know that thanks to my patron, I can basically work half time on Greyhawk stuff, and I will, but it's not half time every day. But thanks to, because before I even started my patron, that's when I signed up for these commissions. So that's a problem. You like a year or two in advance. So that's why so this fall I will basically only be working on Greyhawk stuff. So that's when I want to finish off Lendor Isles, and then work this fall on Hepmona Lands, the Parchment Maps 2, and like or handout maps set 2, and a bunch of some other cool projects. And I also want to start digging into setting the layout for Earth. It's one of the projects for this fall, so I know where the Flanies is and stuff like that. So yeah, and start working on Ratik or Ratik as one of the first when I go ashore, so to speak. So after Lendor Isles, it's Ratik is the one to get the detail treatment of roughly 100 feet per pixel. So, and thanks to modern technology, then I'm it's possible to do maps that detailed. So,
That's some serious detail there. Wow.
yeah. I want
Looks like Gary's got a big
oh
project.
yeah. Oh, cool. Oh, that's
Yorkshire,
awesome. That is
Wow.
awesome.
It's been a long time.
That is so cool. That means, Gary, that we have to have you on next season to talk about this project.
Ah.
You know that, right? Yep. Yep. We need to have him on next
Get to
season
that.
to talk about this project. Yep. Oh, cool. This is awesome. Yep. This is so cool. This is the episode of a lot of breaking new cool things. So,
Breaking
Mike,
new-
what do you have any cool pet projects you want to work on? And
Pet projects.
yeah,
Besides maintaining my blog, I really
Yeah?
don't have any
what do you
pet
want to?
projects. I'm running a game. I'm running a Greyhawk campaign every other
See?
Saturday,
Yeah.
but I'm not really producing anything original. I'm trying to run some published stuff.
Yeah.
Just out of nostalgia. Right now, we're just kind of tooling around. They're spending some hard-earned loot in the city of Greyhawk, so we're playing with, that stuff. But no, I haven't really got the urge to start anything new. I'll just, if an idea presents myself, it's just something I'll throw together in a night and post it.
Are you using like the Greyhawk City box set, or more of sort of Gary's Gourd stories, or?
No, I use the box set. I use the maps and all the content that came after that. Like The Adventure Begins, Roger Moore, The Adventure Begins, 591 CY, and Malden's updated maps of the city from Living Greyhawk, Gazetteer. It's funny. We're talking about in chat what areas of Greyhawk you like the most, and it's like I write about all the time, but I've only ran one campaign in all, and the other 50% of my campaigns are usually set in the city of Greyhawk. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't gone over to Radagast or Divers or other?
Only visits. Only the story warrants it. I have recently ran a lot of stuff in the Hold of the Sea Princes.
Yeah, you did that some years ago. That was really cool.
It's kind of quieted down here lately. It'd be nice to pick up some new high seas adventures someday soon.
That's cool. Yeah, Gary asked you the question in chat, probably exactly the same time when he will hear you answer it, so to speak. So, yep. That was perfect. Yeah, because the reason for that we saw it was that the video and audio has like a 6-8 second delay.
Delay there.
Yeah.
Now I had some characters. This was back in the 2nd edition, crossing over in the 3rd edition era, and they were really rich. They were really powerful. They were veering into being bad guys because they were power tripping, right? And for whatever reason, they decided to travel west to hide out, and they thought, well, we'll go to Ull. There's no one there who will find us. And so they went over there, and they had to, they changed their names and took on new identities, and I had to make up all the stuff about Ull on the fly.
I was just going to say, was that your sparked your interest in Ull? Or?
Yeah, that's what sparked my interest. So I made up all the stuff on the fly, kept my notes, developed my notes when I joined Campfire. Then I developed all that stuff off of my notes.
Oh, cool.
But by then, I had not been back to Ull since.
I think it's time for you to do a second campaign thing. That will be super cool. Yep. So Blake, what's your pet PV project you want to dig into in the future?
A lot of the sort of classic modules seem to use the Drow or the Drow, and I'm like, well, hang on, there's a lot of Underdark creatures in areas that haven't been used as much, so I'm going to try and sprinkle them around the northern sections more, and put in potential links and just flesh them out a bit.
Yeah. So that's something we can hope to have a chance to read on Tribality. Some cool blog posts.
I put the first one up. I think it was yesterday. Should be up. Zolpar.
Yeah.
I think that was mine flares.
Oh,
Let's just have a look. It's got to be near somewhere.
yeah, Zulpar Underdark. Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's one of my photos from a limestone cavern nearby.
Ah, oh, you have limestone caverns. That's really cool. Yep.
Yeah, they look really alien with the, stalagmites and stalactites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have that, but in Sweden I had to go down to the Balkans and to see some really cool big limestone caves. So we had some other caves in Sweden though, but but not limestone with all these. It's mostly granite and stuff, so it's hard rock. So
Yeah.
not that many caves, but oh, that's really cool. Yep, awesome. So when you've been to the Underdark, so any if you had a year or two you can put into Greyhawk, would you love to dig into any big projects or cool things that you would?
Well, my quick Rift Canyon map has turned out to be quite long, and that's probably going to be taking most of another week or so.
Yeah.
After that, I might look for something else, like, I don't know, maybe some coastal caves or something, because I don't recall a lot of underwater stuff or even near water stuff. So maybe like Realmore Bay and
Yeah.
Jatsea and stuff, and
oh yes, that would be awesome to have some cool things like that.
a bunch of coastal maps and some harpies and sirens and seagoing fun stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
more Kuatoa. They
Yeah.
need some love.
Oh, I forgot to say that I've added my own little turf of Greyhawk, so to speak, or earth that I've added. I took a project that I did for my Patreon. That was my second Patreon project when it was all map technical stuff. Before I realized that I need to focus my Patreon on doing Greyhawk. So when I started my Patreon like a year and a half ago or almost 2 years ago, then I did I did a project that was actually. It was an island, and it was more like a tech demo. I needed to work out how to do really detailed maps. So I set out and with the idea of doing Lendor Isles and stuff down the line, but I needed to figure out how to do the stuff, meaning how to do so detailed maps that you can actually see individual trees and houses and stuff, and do rivers and little creeks and stuff like that to make it happen. So then I wanted to So what I did was that and let's see here. I did a set of maps, a set of islands that looks like this, and that's the set of islands that are roughly 30-40 miles across or something like that. So the and you can zoom in and see quite a bit here. So you can see this is an isometric version of the map. So you can see there's a little fortification with some walls around it, and the roads and the rivers, and here there's some little inn. Over here is an inn, and there's a bridge over there, and there's some houses here, and then when we zoom out and we can go over to the that's the main island, and then on this little island here there is this sound in between here, and this little bay is very shielded and deep enough, so there's a little port here and a town and some buildings and stuff. So I kind of made the islands as detailed as I could, so to speak, and get it. And there's some you can have, there's a river going this way and down, and there's some creeks coming in here and stuff. So this set of islands, I actually decided to put them roughly about halfway between Fireland and Rel Astra, but more straight out, so to speak. So it's like east of Rel Astra and almost south of Fireland. So somewhere out there, a little bit north. So if you go
I've got to say, I don't know much about Firelands at all.
Yep. So I'm going to show in a moment here. I need to go into Greyhawk, and we're going to look at the Earth and look at a map here. I haven't actually mapped them in put them on any of these maps yet, but here we go, and we have a view of, now you also have the 6-second delay here, so I have to a few seconds delay, so I have to wait a little bit here. So we have, here is Fireland, up here on the northeast, and then we have the
Not larger
Flannies
than I
here,
realized.
and we have Real Astra is roughly around here on the coast here. So my thinking is that this set of islands are somewhere around here, out here in the middle here. So it might be, it's not not halfway to the Fireland. If you go to Fireland from the Theronian Peninsula, it would be way easier to just go east and go directly to them. But if you come here from the south, then it might be a good stopover here, like 500 miles out in the ocean somewhere or something. So I wanted that kind of cool. Now I forgot what I named them, but I need to open my Realmworks because that's where I had my so I had to wait a few seconds while I did. But so I decided to, and now we have, so yeah, that split screen we can go back into while we're waiting there. So it was my idea of taking something that I already done that was detailed that much and simply say I want to put them out there because they are small enough to be overlooked by the general public, so to speak, and not show up on the previous maps because there will just be a little dot on that. It will be a pixel or two, but it's cool to have them there. So that will be my little first contribution, my little area. So people want to do it. So they will show up, and I will detail them more. And Brian Darnell, one of my friends, that is an awesome DM. He ran some campaign, and he was one of my patrons. And he came up. So I asked him for cool ideas, and he came up with an idea that I loved it. It was an order of monks that have a little monastery out there, and they brew ale, and they make very, very special brews. So once a century they make a brew that is so awesome, but it's only available once a century. So you have to go there once a century and you can buy these bottles and stuff. So that might be part of their tourism thingy, I don't know, but it's so let's see here. So the islands are I have to log in. It was an update, but hopefully I can skip it, so I can skip the out.
So
yeah.
You'd have sort of nobles going over there having like a bidding war or something, and someone trying to
they send their representative with boats.
Yeah.
And once a generation or so that they send them over. So it's the I use one of my Greyhawk naming generators that is kind of super cool for. So they are the islands of Estold are out there. So I took actually name from the because there was someone probably looking for Fireland that kind of by accident discovered them, and it was some guy named Estold who probably wanted to go to Fireland and kind of got drifted south and ended up there, and now the group of islands are named after him, so to speak, and so that might be his only contribution. So I'll flesh it out a bit, but if you look a bit at the I'll look at the islands a bit here again. So here we have the let's see here. So if I zoom in on this little island here in the south, it's not that I'm going to show what the actual, I'm going to show it here from Realmworks. So here on so this is what, this my campaign in my maps and stuff in Realmworks. So there's a top-down version and an isometric version of this, and I'm going to zoom in. So here is the monastery here, and they actually have you can go down here, and there's a little port thing here, and there's a trail leading up here. You can see it go through the trees here and to the monastery. So that's where they hide out and make their brew once a century. So it's one of these kind of cool little things that you can weave in the campaign once, and it probably has a lot of cool magical properties or whatever. So we'll see. I'll work with Brian, and we'll see if we can kind of detail it more and write some little cool article or something in the future with.
So you could print out like a sepia version of that map and say this is a player's map. This is what actually gets handed to them.
So they will be, and I already have them. Hang on a second, I'll show you the oh yes, I have I have lots of cool. So we have the islands, and we have the finals. So
back in the day, we would always sort of get a tea bag and drain it, and then slowly drag it across the paper to give it that old parchment look, and gently turn the edges.
Here is the old parchment style map of the island, so to speak. So you just get the overview, and there's some other ones too here. So let's see here. We have there's a white one that is a little bit more when some scribes that have a little bit more detail, whatever you can paint on it and stuff. So there you have it, and there's some I did some renderings with using the terrain here, and there's another one. So when you come into the inlet, this is what you see. This is what the terrain looks like on some of them. So, and there's a black and white you can use for as a mask, and this is what the islands look like from a satellite view, so to speak. So when you render them, so this is the photoreal. So this is kind of a quality test, so to speak. So the Lendor Isles will look better than this. They will look
Crazy.
more detailed and better than this. So the but the this is 3D, and when you look, this is the island that is over where the monks hang out, and that's their monastery. So this island is one of these kind of really inaccessible places. That so they built the monastery up there because you can sail around that island 10 times and not see that someone lives up there. So he's really hidden away. So yeah.
It's wild.
Yep. So that's
Yeah,
that's
ISS.
yeah. Oh yes, yeah. International Spell Station. That's really cool. So and there's some mines up here in one of the that I made in here, and yeah, there's some details here and there on the on all of these islands have a little bit of detail here and there, and I have way more detailed maps. Let's see if I can finals. We have. I think this is the this is the full resolution top down, I think, of that island with the here you
So I'm thinking it's pretty windy on those islands, and people might sort of half make their house inside the hill.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and this up here, there's a little bit of this is a valley here, so that's why that's why I put them in the valley, because up here on the peaks, and also the trees are kind of growing here when they're shielded by the hills here, so that's why there are more trees. So, and the same thing here is there's this valley in the middle. So I actually use those variables when I placed it, so they're fractals that place the tree, and I took all that in consideration. So the windswept outer reaches of the islands here are devoid of trees, and there are a few people that live here next to it because there's like this natural harbor going in here. So so this is the kind of detail that you get. So you can see this is the monastery here, and there's some little temple bit and different houses. So this is probably about 10 feet per pixel, but I think that Lendor Isle, I might not go this detail. I might go to 100 feet per pixel, but the overall terrain will be better than this. It will be more, but this is the kind of quality that I'm looking for. So this is the kind of standard I want to set in the future. So I want maps that are roughly, you can run a wilderness adventure almost like you run a dungeon crawl. So you can do a hex crawl around through the hexes in the same way, because this island is not even one of these 12-mile hexes. So you can have lots of adventures, and you can go out and you can say that there are some bears living here or whatever. You can come up with all sorts of interesting stuff. There is like a big giant eagle nesting up here, and yeah, you can come up with all sorts of stuff, and you can
you could do the is it Isle of Dread, the one with the dinosaurs and stuff on it?
Yep. That's that was one in the competition for when I did. It was actually the when I ran a poll in the Flanese Geographical Group Society Facebook group. So I decided I needed to have an area. I needed an island or a small group of islands, because I wanted a self-contained area that it didn't belong to the rest, part of the mainland Flanese. So I simply said that I need something that was less than something maximum like 300 miles. And self-contained little geographical area, so an island somewhere. So I simply said, come with examples. And the Isle of Dread was I think it won second place after Lendor Isles. So Lendor Isles won the. So that's why I didn't pick it. I wanted to do the Walworth Isle, the isle in Nerdiv with Admundfort is on. That was my candidate that I voted on because
A little smaller.
yeah, it's a bit smaller and it was also closer to home where I wanted to run adventures. But
True.
nope. But and now the my patrons have decided that Ratik will be the first area when we go to the mainland, so to speak. That will be the first realm to be
Smaller,
mapped.
manageable.
Yep, yeah, because it's also roughly it's a few hundred miles and it's manageable in size. And a lot of people say, "Oh, do the Sea of Death and Sea of the Dust," and I was like,
Oh.
no, that's big as Australia, not that big, but it's kind of
Yeah.
it's big as France or something. So it's way too big. So I don't want to do something that is 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles across. I
Right.
wanted something manageable. So the Sea of Death is one of the cool things I really want to do. But then I need to have a solid way of working on really large areas first. So Ratik will be a first test bench when I have tiling in place, so I can work on one area and make sure that I can work on another one adjacent to it and
Always
make
has a
them match.
plan in her head.
Yeah, well, yeah. That when you work on
Steps.
projects like this, I have to set standards for what I do. That's what a lot of people don't realize is that once you've committed to it, you're stuck with it for like a decade. And you have to. It's like now when I started doing my Flannery's map, that was 20 years ago, and I'm still working on the damn thing. So hopefully in 10 years, that's my then I will retire this map and there will be a new
Right.
one. That's the goal. In 10 years time it should be obsolete completely. But it will take a decade to phase it out by simply done new content that is better and more detailed. So hopefully most of it can be retired in like 5 6 years. And it depends, it will probably take 10 years if at this pace, but if I get 500 patrons I can probably easily do it in 5 years and to retire it and map the whole Flannies again, so to speak, in new better detail. But it's up to how much time I can put into it and stuff. So yeah. But that's a little bit what I'm up to. So yep. And my little contribution to Greyhawk is my little Esthold Isles are out there in the ocean. So they will be part of my Earth map, and I will also post them on my website, and they will probably be on Greyhawk Online and stuff. So I will put some names and some places and stuff there and detail them a bit. So they will be my little, because I didn't want to upset anything on the mainland, so they're out there, so to speak, as an addition. People can use them or skip them or put them somewhere else if they want to. So yeah.
We're running up on
Yeah, 2 hours.
so
Yep. Mm-hmm.
2 hours, Anna.
Yeah. Oh, do we have any in chat? I haven't babbled now for 10 minutes.
I
So
think we kind of kept up with the questions.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So
Blake, anything
yeah, you want
else
to
you got
plug
on your mind
and
you
where
out
can
there?
we find your work? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mostly just tribality.com. I
Yep.
put the word Greyhawk at the front of each of my articles, so yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to find. And I try and keep sort of system level out of it, so it's just it should be used in most fantasy games, but definitely a few
Smart
5e
idea.
references there. But yeah. And I got plenty more in the pipeline. And if anyone has any suggestions about, hey, I want this little area done, just chuck me a tweet or
Mm-hmm.
put a link on under one of the articles, and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing you in the chat for Legends and Lore every week, right?
I'll certainly try to.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, even when we move to Wednesdays, but yeah.
Wednesdays. Yeah,
Wednesdays,
yeah. I hope that don't throw you off.
It's because I'm 13 and a half hours ahead, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, but I'll certainly try.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Blake, for coming on. This was fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great to have a chat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we will be back next week, and next week we will have Christoph Nolan, also known as Icarus, the guy behind nowadays running Greyhawk Online. So we will probably talk a lot about that website and some other cool projects and stuff. That will be
He's got a lot of
yep. Mm-hmm.
great ideas.
And he's an artist. He's done a lot of cool Greyhawk illustrations and stuff over the years too. So that will be the guest for next week and the final episode for this season. And then we have to come up with new cool topics when we come back in June again. Yeah. But next week,
Yep.
and let me plug. I'll be next week. I will not. I will do a special live mapping show for my patrons only. But I will be back in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday for the let's see where that could be. Tuesday, not Tuesday the upcoming week, but the week after that. So then I will be back with my next mapping Twitch stream, and then we will look at texturing and exporting textures and stuff like that. So then it's the opposite from this show. There's a little bit of Greyhawk and a hell of a lot of maps. This is a hell of a lot of Greyhawk and a little bit of maps. So yeah, so we kind of my mapping live streams are the other way around. There will be some Greyhawk mentioned because a lot of maps are about Greyhawk, but most of it is the technical stuff, how to do things in Photoshop and World Machine and whatnot. So we will look at exporting textures and then work with an import and how to set things up and stuff. Yep. Okay. So any
All right.
last questions and stuff? Oh yeah, we got map the abyss. Yes, I definitely want to map the abyss.
Map
Yes,
the abyss.
that is one of the ultimate crazy goal for any map maker. The ultimate kind of is to map the abyss. And I've done some not cool, but I've done some sketches and ideas and how to try and tackle some of it. And Grist or Grast rather domain Mesafragdun, I think is one of the names of it in the Gary's books, in the Gord books, and then there were some other names that it's called in some of the other sources. We've been adventuring there back and forth a bit, and Lord Vuron is one of my favorite villains, so I definitely want to go there. But that will stretch any technical, logical, mind-bending things you have to do with it. So yeah, yep. But it's a cool, yep. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on, and thank you again in chat. Well, you've been awesome, guys, and we have so many wonderful.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming.
Yeah, and so many cool.
Thank you. It's been cool.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week, and
Next week.
Yep, next week again. So in the meantime, play a lot of Greyhawk and write awesome stuff and do all of it. But and Gary, we're looking forward to that awesome article in Earth Journal. That sounds awesome. So thank you guys.
Can't wait.
Yep.
Thank you all. Take care.